My first real Call of Duty game was Call of Duty 2, a shooter quite bare bones by today's standards in almost every aspect of the genre. Every few years since then I dived back into the franchise, exploring new additions and the various transformations COD has made over the years. From Black Ops 1 and 2 to Advanced Warfare and now Call of Duty Mobile. I didn't think this game would translate well at all to any kind of mobile device outside of the Switch. It's safe to say I was naive because Call of Duty Mobile is a faithful recreation of its console counterparts in nearly every regard. That said, I've heard the stories about the loot boxes and predicted the various cash shop advertisements that you have to sift through before actually playing the game. I've been around the block with these kinds of things before, so it didn't bug me as much as someone who's coming from console or PC to their first mobile shooter. That said, what I was mainly worried about was how the game could be realistically played where the buttons are the screen itself. As one of my first shooters on the mobile platform, I couldn't quite wrap my head around the concept, so I explored the game's generous amount of settings, and I'm happy to report that you can freely customize the on-screen buttons any way that you want. Move them around, shrink them, make them bigger, or just use a Bluetooth controller because the game actually supports that, although my PlayStation 4 controller is supposed to work, but due to a current bug, it hasn't worked at all, to my extreme disappointment. I hopped in game with half of my screen covered with my hands and actually proceeded to dominate. The way shooting works is both simple in its execution while also retaining the options for a more advanced play. The simple option is to point at an enemy and the gun starts shooting a half-second later. This works fairly well for hip-firing and even better when aiming down sights. The advanced option is to ditch the whole auto-firing solution and give you a dedicated button to immediately aim down sights and fire continuously. COD, being the run-and-gun master that it is, made me choose advanced so that I can spray down my opponents. In practice, both modes work fairly well, especially once you customize your buttons' layouts. You'll have plenty of space on screen to aim with your thumb and press buttons to crouch, prone, jump, and throw grenades with ease. One of the pros of playing from a tablet is that it makes shooters like these a bit easier compared to the same game on a smartphone. With more room to move fingers comes extra dexterity and an increase to fine aiming, which seemed to put me in the upper echelon of players in both regular matches and the Battle Royale mode. All humble bragging aside, as soon as I come up against someone using a Bluetooth controller, I get clapped, so there's that. Speaking of modes though, there are quite a few packed into this game. You have your standard variety of objective and team deathmatch game types that you'd come to expect from COD, followed by a fairly competent Battle Royale mode that streamlines the process of gearing up considerably by making the process of picking up gear and upgrades completely automatic. Finally, you even have a zombies mode, of which I've never been a huge fan of personally, but it's still cool to see that even zombies made their way to mobile COD. Visually, Call of Duty Mobile does its job of looking like a last generation COD game, minus some of the eye candy you'd expect from the franchise. If I had to choose a last gen COD game to compare Call of Duty Mobile 2, I'd say it looks like Modern Warfare or maybe Modern Warfare 2 or 3 depending on your settings. A lot of visual dressing is pared back or completely removed for the sake of performance on a wide array of mobile hardware. For me, on max settings with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 835, I got an average of 50-60 frames per second in my majority of matches, dropping a bit below that in Battle Royale. I have mentioned this already, but due to being a mobile game, this version of Call of Duty suffers from every version of scummy mobile practices imaginable. Loot boxes that sell power, or at least a small chance to, a free and paid battle pass with, you guessed it, more than just cosmetics, various deals that come in the form of first purchase bonuses or daily, weekly, monthly packs, full of things that are difficult to earn for free or straight up impossible. I knew Call of Duty Mobile would be fully entrenched in such practices before I even downloaded the thing, but it still stings a little bit. If it was just the Battle Pass, then I could be completely fine with that, but when there are gun rarities that grant impactful passive bonuses and are available to those who spend money and not available, or at least not as easily available for those who don't, is when I have a problem. Having observed all of that, it's safe to say that this Call of Duty isn't for those who are looking to dominate the game on any professional level, obviously. The various pay-for-power aspects of this mobile title unfortunately drag this game's name and legacy through the mud for nothing more than the opportunity for whales to spend big buku bucks to have the best. And for those not in the know, whales, as they are so lovingly referred to, are the 1% or less of players who spend massive amounts of money on anything and everything they can in a game like this. Most of the time, it's those people who can keep various mobile games like these afloat by themselves. It's a shame that that's even a thing in my opinion. However, I realize it's not anything 1 or 100 or even 100,000 people can easily change, so it is what it is. And Call of Duty Mobile is a decent mobile game that brings the entire COD package to your phone or tablet and while I can't rate the game high enough to recommend you spend a few bucks on it, I can say that it is at least worth your time if you want the Cod experience on the go. For my closing comments, I have to admit this game has some pretty interesting potential if you really think about it. I mean, it could be the first Call of Duty game in the franchise to be supported by post-launch content and updates beyond just the first year, as I doubt they would make a new mobile COD game every year to replace the old one. This could set the precedent for a COD game with 2, 3, or even 4+ years of updates and content, so that's kind of exciting. And that's the end of my review. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you're enjoying on mobile and maybe I'll check it out. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and hit the bell before you go. Gastoli, over and out.